All right, it's great to see everybody today. This is going to be a lot of fun because yesterday we talked a lot about content management. We talked about the best ways of planning your social. This is going a little bit more advanced into, we've done these great content marketing strategies, we've got social out there. How do we actually give an audience or a report that's something that's more than just fans, followers, and likes? So as a quick introduction, did a great intro there. My name is Ben Cathers, Senior Solution Consultant for Hootsuite. I have the fun role of every week hopping on a plane or a train and working with our largest government and largest clients overall and strategizing with C-level executives all the way down to people managing social every day to other people in the organization and really helping them understand the best values, the best practices, and most importantly, how to really measure that ultimate social success. And today, we're going to start with the state of social business. We're going to then go into lining some of your specific goals, how to measure social across all of your departments, and then the always fun question of how do we measure ROI. So we'll be tackling all those activities today, and then we'll be leaving about 10-15 minutes for questions at the end. So the state of social, I always like to just start with the slide, and for those who were here yesterday, this is a little bit redundant from what we talked about, but we're in a brand new world where now we've got an explosion of social networks, content, and participants. When we started social media, the industry 5-6 years ago, it was managing a Facebook account, it was managing a Twitter account. Reporting was simple. We had Facebook fan growth for the first 2 years. We had Twitter growth for the first 2 years. Everybody was happy. Nobody really knew what else we were going to do, but it looked great doing that. Now, we found out that Instagram is one of the largest sources of traffic to websites out there. We're finding Periscope becoming the leading social network out there for referral traffic. We're finding Vine is becoming the new way to have video success out there, and that's replacing YouTube. YouTube is still part of the whole mix. And because of that, there's an explosion of content that we have to create for different platforms and different groups, and what that leads to us is more challenges on how we can actually measure the results of all of our different social efforts. And I always like this one because this is really what we've seen social evolve in companies. It starts off with that person raising their hand and saying, I want to do social media. Great, you are now the social media department. You have all the responsibilities, all the social networks and activity. And when you get started, it's a manageable task. I started my background working in finance, managing social media for a large financial services company. I was the entire department. That worked for about 6 months until we were getting hundreds of requests, we were getting significant traffic, and we were actually generating sales. That led to me being able to develop a team. And that's what we see a lot of companies move to what we call the social teams, where now social is managed by multiple departments. It's different groups. It's the social media department. But then what we see is the evolution to what we call the social organization. And kind of like what I was saying yesterday, it's almost the death of the social media manager. Our CEO wrote a great article about that, which is a little bit contradictory because social media managers use Hootsuite every day. But his whole argument about that was that social media managers aren't dying as a profession as much as social now encompasses every part of the organization, from customer service to PR to corporate communications, even to things like human resources for recruiting and due diligence. And that it's no longer siloed among that social media manager, it's no longer siloed among that social media department, but the most successful people and the most successful organizations have it where social is all ingrained in the company. As we were saying before, I work with the Canadian government. They've got every single department on social media on Hootsuite. And social data not only is engaging with constituents, but it's influencing their marketing decisions. It's influencing what they're going to promote in the years coming ahead. It helps them know what to invest in because they're able to use social data to see what's resonating, what the sentiment is. And that's a way to be super successful when everybody from the buy-in from all the way from the Prime Minister to the CTO of the Canadian government is looking at social data all the way down to the social media managers for each department working on all of that. And that's what we really see the explosion and the success on. But this leads to a ton of challenges on alignment. We recently had a survey conducted by a third-party firm through Hootsuite, and we found that only 9% of organizations feel confident in saying that they're completely aligned on their social strategy. So it's great that I just showed that whole vision of we want social to encompass the entire organization, but when only 9% of people actually feel fully aligned, you'll never be able to get to that. And in fact, we found that over almost 50% are either somewhat aligned or not even aligned at all in their social strategy. And if we're going to really get to that level of that social organization, that social group, we need to be able to do better with that. And we found that of the people that were somewhat aligned, 64% of them said it was extremely difficult to actually build any type of social media process and strategy. And why is that? Because social now encompasses multiple different ways. It's building that social media strategy. How do we get buy-ins from different departments and different groups and build that social excitement? How do we actually educate the staff members and the teams on it? How do we get people to know that social is going to be infecting your decisions? And then how do we get them to know what's comfortable? How do they know the difference between a retweet and how do they know the difference between a Vine loop? What does that actually mean to our business? That's part of the challenge in building that social strategy across the organization. And it's also understanding the different departments. For one department, engagement and customer service, that's the main one. For communications or PR, it's about reach, it's about brand awareness, and it's understanding how different teams and different departments have different social goals and objectives, and how do we actually build that proper alignment among all of them. And why does this matter? Because there was a breakthrough about this time last year that for the vast majority of the largest publishers in the world and the largest websites, including you can read the stuff about BuzzFeed, for Hootsuite itself, that social has overtaken search in terms of web traffic referral. Let that sink in for a second. We focused 10 years on building search strategies and SEM strategies, only for the last year for social to actually overtake that. So we've been working 5, 10, 15 years on building those search budgets, building that alignment, building all of those teams. And then in just a few years, social actually overtook that as the largest referral source. And the innovative companies, the ones that built that full social strategy, such as the BuzzFeeds of the world where they focus on building social traffic, that's now their largest source of traffic, and that's free traffic coming in there as opposed to having a dedicated search budget. And that's changing things around. Because now, before it was let's get a search agency, let's just buy a ton of search ads, and that's our web content, our web marketing strategy. That is completely thrown out the door, and unless the company has full alignment, that's going to be one of the biggest struggles to actually get. And being that social is the leading referral traffic source to the web, it leads to the first impression. Before it was we can buy an ad, we're going to be one of 5 to 10 ads, we're going to buy our keywords, we know what we're going to focus on. Social is now, when you are a brand, the first time to build an impression and build a relationship. So having that proper engagement strategy, having that proper content strategy is what will lead to people actually having that proper perception of your brand. And use of mobile is increasing. Less people are searching on mobile today. Now when you go on your phone, people are going on Facebook, people go on Twitter, they go on Vine or Instagram instead of going to Google. Because of that, that's an opportunity for those who are socially advanced to continue building more impressions and more excitement, as opposed to the ones that are focusing only on a digital marketing or a search engine strategy. And because of that, social is now easier to consume that content. Before it was just your static ad, hope they clicked on your banner ad, hope they clicked on your link. But now this is a chance for them to actually consume your content, engage with it, share with it, and that creates a new challenge in both content creation and a new challenge in actually analyzing the success of this. And the other important part, people view a social influencer or a team member or a friend or family member on social as more credible than a search engine ad. So now, not only is the focus on your own content, but it's seeing what are other people saying out there about you, and then seeing is that positive, is that negative, and then actually seeing that that has a bigger influence than almost any type of marketing budget you can actually spend on. And that's the new reality that came out of nowhere a couple years ago and is now the new challenge, especially as destination marketers and tourism group, to actually build the new excitement around the brand. Because all it takes is that one bad influencer, that one bad mention on social to destroy all of the marketing efforts and branding efforts you've been doing for the past 5, 10, 15, maybe 50 years. And because of this, we're all marketers in the room today. We're facing new challenges. No longer is it, how do we build the proper search ad? How do we build the proper copy? Now it's, how do I actually reach my audience? Where are they? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Vine? Are they on Snapchat? How do we actually know where the audience is? How do we actually engage them? So the challenge is, before we can just buy banner ads, we can just buy search ads and just put in a ton of ads and content and they'll see it. But now with social, they dictate what they see. They dictate who they follow. They dictate who retweets their content. And that's changing the entire marketing shift on how you're going to get real results and alignment on your strategy. And the other question is, how do I actually prove the value of that? We all know the value of what an engagement is, a retweet, when we build those connections on social. But for those where we have a management team that's focused only on acquisition or search ads or marketing ads, having to explain to them what all of this means and why it's important becomes a new challenge for us. And then, of course, how do we actually do measure the business impact? How do we actually prove that X number of engagements leads to a visit to the website, that leads to a conversion, that leads to a sale, that leads to somebody visiting in there? That's a new challenge on top of the explosion of content, on top of the explosion of social networks and participants, is actually align that to real business results. And then how do you actually do this efficiently? How does this actually scale? Going back to that first slide of building that social organization, how do we actually then prove that this works and then build a plan that every single department can agree with, especially with each department having different objectives, different goals, different KPIs. And suddenly that role, that social media manager, goes from just creating content to doing the analytics to creating corporate-wide strategies. And it's leading to social being a VP level position. It's becoming a C-level position, because for those people that get it and have social data influencing their decisions, it becomes almost a giant shift in an entire organization. So how does social actually drive our business objectives? We're going to walk through a couple of use cases today, going from marketing to sales. I want to start with marketing today and show how you can actually do this. First, let's take a step back. As anybody who does any type of marketing activity, we always need to set goals. So we always do goal setting sessions in here. The number one goal to think about is brand awareness. How many people in the room have to focus on brand awareness with their roles in their lives? It's something that we do every day. That's now translated in social as reach. So when people are saying, what is our brand awareness? They all know the CPMs, they know the metrics, they know the activity. Now it's reach in social. It's educating people that that's the new measurement, that's the new goal, that's in there. Thought leadership. I'm sure everybody in here has a CEO who says, I'm going to be a thought leader. You've got that top salesperson who's, I'm the thought leader, I'm going to conferences, I'm going to webinars, I'm speaking in here. In social, now you measure that by consumption. How many people are actually reading that article? How many people are actually engaging with it? How many people are favoriting it or retweeting it or plus oneing it or revining it? That's the new way to measure thought leadership translated into social. Next is word of mouth. Word of mouth marketing is one of the most crucial things for anybody in destination marketing or tourism. We want to get people excited about new programs and events and initiatives we have in here. Your new measurement today is now shares. Did we create content that people felt so excited about or so engaged with that they actually said, I want to put this on my social networks so my friends can see that? Was there a great photo of the beach that they said, I want my friends to see that? That's the new way to be able to actually measure your word of mouth success. The next is leads. This is all great, but how many people are actually requesting info about our destination, or filling out white papers, or getting brochures? That's now actions. How are we measuring the actions that are taken on our site, or call centers, or emails because of social? And then finally, it's sales. How many people are actually visiting our location? That new measurement today is conversion. So what I recommend is, when you're looking to build out that marketing framework, show them all of their goals, but but show them this is how we're going to quantifiably measure it. It's going to be conversions on the site. It's going to be action. We're going to be able to set a goal. If thought leadership is really important, our goal is X number of shares. With brand awareness is a crucial item, we're going to reach X number of users on our social channels every month. That's one of the first ways to do that. And that looks a lot more effective than saying, we got 100,000 followers. Great. That worked for maybe the first year of your social marketing strategy. But when you could go into year 2 or 3 and say, we grew our audience, and because of growing our audience, we were able to reach 100,000 people. Because we grew our audience, 5,000 of them are sharing our content and building our audience through there. That's a new way to be able to have more actionable metrics on your marketing side. Then there's 2 ways to measure this. There's going to be the ways to measure it on network. So measuring the success of Twitter, measuring the success of Facebook, of Google+, of Pinterest, and Instagram. And then it's aligning it to your off-network activity. So how much website traffic are we generating because of it? How many times are people downloading items on the website because of our social activity? How many people are actually attending our events because of our social activity? How can we align all of our on-network social activity to our off-network activity? When you're measuring your on-network activity, it goes beyond just, again, those fans, followers, and likes, the new measurement. It goes to conversation. So how many people are actually commenting and replying on each of our posts? We all know that happens. There are ways to measure it. But now, if we can show that people are actually talking and engaging with our brand, that's a new way to build that measurement success. It's the amplification. So going from that word of mouth activity, showing the number of shares, showing the number of retweets, and aligning that specifically to your goals and initiatives. And then it's the applause. How many people are liking our content? How many people are +1ing it? How many people are favoriting it? That's a great way to actually build the perception of your content. When we can say, we're really excited, we're going to tell everybody about this festival, and it got 5 likes. But then we shared a photo of a little kid at the beach, and it got 1,000 likes. That's the way our audience, in a real-time basis, is giving us feedback on what's working and what's not working on our strategy. That is a type of data that you'll never get in a magazine ad. You'll never get that in on a video or a commercial. And this is an opportunity to literally do millions of focus groups at scale on a regular basis. And these are the ways to be able to measure your social activity. So why does this matter? Well, when you're looking at your content and doing your reviews of your weekly or your monthly reporting of activity, what type of content actually works? That's, again, your audience providing that real-time feedback of what they want to see and what they want you to tell them to market about. We might want to get them all to that festival, but if they care about something else, they're going to tell you that, and you're going to be able to measure that in social every day, every week, every month, and that could be fed to different departments and different teams and help create that alignment and strategy. Then it's the audience. Okay, so we got 5,000 engagements. Who is actually engaging with it? Are they citizens? Are they people in our community? Is it potential tourists? What is the demographic information? Are we finding out that we want to be that young destination, but we find out that everybody sharing and liking is at an older demographic? Some people might want to just ignore that. Some people might say that's irrelevant. Or others that are really that whole social organization are going to use that to change their shift. Maybe we're going to build activities that are more focused on them. Maybe we're going to build more marketing campaigns revolving around that, because that's the real-time feedback we're receiving. And then ultimately, is this actually impacting our goals? So we go back to that first one of it being thought leadership, of brand awareness, of word of mouth. How is all the social activity we're doing actually affecting that? And when you're able to go to a senior management team and say, we want to build more brand awareness, more word of mouth around our destination, and then being able to tie that into your social activity, that will help you justify more investment, more staffing, which we can always use, and actually build real impact on your business because of your social activities. When you're measuring your off-network activities, so all the website activity, some of the ways you want to do that is the web traffic activity coming from social. How many people are actually visiting us from social? How many people are actually engaging on the content? Are they coming to our site and leaving after 10 seconds? Or are we identifying that people on Twitter are going to spend 7 minutes on our site and click on 15 pages? We already have all the measurements of why that's important for the business. Now, if we can tie that into our social activity, we're going to find more success with that. It's also marketing automation. So how many people from our social activity actually became a lead, actually became an account, actually went to our destination to actually purchased brochures or guides or requested those videos? How can we track that? Same with CRM, saving the context. So from our social activity, how many people actually are somebody that we're going to be marketing to on a regular basis, who sign up for our email newsletter, who says, I want to learn more about the destination? Did that come from Twitter? Did it come from Facebook? Did it come from this campaign? Did it come from that campaign? Tying that all together. And ultimately in real life, it's leading to actually who visit our location and how do we actually generate revenue and tourism dollars because of our social activity. And it's all about making it real. So it's having your social activity, but then having the proper infrastructure in place. So you're managing Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the activity. In the middle, that's your social platform. So now you have the tools in place to be able to listen. Instead of having to go to Facebook and Twitter natively, having one platform that measures all of your activity so you can listen to multiple networks and streams and activity. It's being able to publish to all of them. So how do we have the infrastructure in place to save us time? As this is all going to be aligning to business strategies. We're doing all of our marketing and alignment. How do we actually have one platform to publish to it? And then how are we engaging at scale across those channels? As we know, when somebody makes a comment on your Facebook wall or they send you a retweet, they're expecting a response in 1 hour. It doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. It doesn't matter if it's 6 o'clock at night. They're expecting that response. And how do we have the infrastructure in place to actually engage with them? And then when that infrastructure is in place and we have that engagement, we have that retweet, we have that share, that conversation, then it ultimately can be tied into our web analytics program. So tying it back to all that social activity, how much website traffic did it do? From that social activity, did we actually create leads in our CRM? Did we actually create accounts in our marketing automation systems? And how is the whole mix and alignment coming together? But it goes beyond marketing. That's just one use case on how to be able to change your measurement in marketing. But looking forward, it's on sales. So one of the ways to measure your social success in sales is measuring across individuals. Who are people that are going out there right now and actually creating those conversations? Who are those individual sales team members? I'm working with one of the world's largest travel agencies, and they actually have it where their travel agents are responsible every day to create conversations, engage with people. They have about 500 of them every day looking for people saying, any recommendations on Orlando, any recommendations on this, and they engage with them. They're required to engage with them, and that activity is reported on how many of them engage, how many of them work, and then how many of them are actually transferring that to the CRM program. Then when that entire team is working together, they set up team goals. So our goal is we want across our social managers to have 5 interactions a day. Those 5 interactions times 100 sales members, that's 500 a day. Our goal is for sales to have 500 interactions on social every day. How are you guys measuring that across your organization? How many of your people are actually going in and requiring that among your sales team, your communications, your outreach teams, and then how are we setting team goals against that? It's doing it across regions. So maybe it's everybody on the Southwestern marketing team or the sales team from them, they need to go in. They need to be the ones who are they're the ones who are going in and setting those engagement goals, those lead gen goals, those marketing automation goals. And then ultimately, how are these our company-wide goals and activities? So are we saying to them that our goal as a company is to have 1,000 engagements? Tie that into the marketing goal. Those 1,000 engagements will help build our brand awareness by creating reach of 2,000. By having 100 different shares, how does that build our word of mouth? And when you look at that across a company-wide strategy, you can put that across your teams, your regions, and companies and build it all out together. And then there's also customer service. So it's great, marketers, we already have our goals: brand awareness, thought leadership, sales. Their goals is to get conversions, website activity, form fill outs. But with customer service, their team, if you get your CS team on social, they've got completely different goals. They don't care about reach. They don't care about amplification. They don't care about the conversation. What they care about is resolution. How many messages are they actually resolving? If there's been an issue with a hotel, with a cab, with somebody in your region, are we actually being proactive in them? One of the big ones I know that loves doing this is every time they come to, you check into the airport and say, I've arrived in Austin, they will go in and say, well, welcome, thank you for coming. They'll tweet at you. They'll recommend a cab company. Some of them have social concierge programs where they'll help arrange a limo or transportation. That's their way of measuring success. For them, it's not about reach, it's about those relationships at scale and creating those connections. And then it's also the word of mouth. So how many people actually went in here on our social, through our social customer service activity, said, that was great, and they shared the comment and said, I'm so excited that this city actually went in and got me a limo or recommended a restaurant. If anybody here from Kansas City, if you go in and say, so looking forward to Kansas City, there's a team in their tourism bureau that will go in and actually say, that's great, do you need dinner recommendations today? One of the largest hotel chains in the world, Hilton, anytime you check into your Hilton location, they will have a Hilton Suggest Twitter account reach out to you and say, do you need help with reservations? Should we set you up with our concierge? Do you want to know directions in your local area? That's a great way to build those hypersocial relationships. And working with that team there, they measure that strictly by how many people they engaged that were happy, and then how many of them actually shared those tweets and those messages and built stronger word of mouth on them. And the way they also measure this is by volume. How many are they doing on a regular basis? How quickly? And then what is the cost of staffing those departments? And then ultimately, the Net Promoter Score. How is it that our social customer service activity led to more people wanting to promote our brand, being excited about our destination, and creating all of that excitement? The other big one, employees. How many of us here today are measuring the success of our employees in promoting our destinations? I see no hands. That's a scary thought, because the employees, they're all here. They're all here to build, they're on social every day. They're on network. They're the ones responsible for the website and driving website activity. And they're the ones, when you're all together, build your goals and alignment. And they can boost your reach. Here's a quick little example. Imagine you're a company, you've got 200,000 employees, and you've got 2.2 million likes, 1.1 million Twitter followers, and 600,000 followers on LinkedIn. Their reach is almost 4 million. But if they have 200,000 employees that have 200 Facebook friends, 61 Twitter followers, and 480 connections, when you times those numbers together, their total reach is 160 million. So your employees are one of the most underutilized assets you have in building and increasing your reach. And when that is one of your strategic marketing goals of building your brand excitement and things about your destination, they become a critical factor in your success in there. And not everybody has 200,000 employees. You have 500. Think about 500 times 200 times 100 times 500. Put those numbers together. That's a reach that I could almost guarantee is going to be higher than all of your official channel reaches. And because of that, that's where you're going to really be able to harness the power of your teams and your employees. We've done a great job of knowing how CS is going to do this. We know how marketing is going to do it, but your employees, they work for you, they love your brand, they want to promote it, and are you actually going out there and encouraging them to? Are you giving them the right tools to do that? And are you giving them the right collateral so it's easy for them to do it? Because otherwise, I guarantee you, most of them won't even know where to start with that. And the numbers don't lie. Some of the research that we've been able to identify is that the content shared by employees gets 8 times on average more engagement than any of the content on your official channels. 92% of the followers of your employees are new to your brand. Think about that. They might list on Facebook, okay, this is where I work, or Twitter, they might talk about with some friends, but the vast majority of their social friends on Twitter, the vast majority of their Facebook friends have no idea about your destination, about your company or your brand. And this is an opportunity where if your goal is to increase reach and word of mouth, to be able to build new followers and audience through your employees. The other part, it's the thing that it pains me to say, but people don't like to share official corporate content all the time. We can push out as much content as we want. We can do all the planning, our editorial, social calendars, put that all together, and it's still, people don't feel comfortable always sharing content from a corporate brand. But when their friends and their employees share those great photos, when their friends are posting great links, they are 24 times more likely to share with them. And if your goal is to increase word of mouth and increase that via shares, your employees are the ones who are going to be able to help you generate those goals quicker and faster. So how do we get started? I hope to leave you all today with 4 different action items. 1, think about 2 of your biggest business goals and align them to social. Is it word of mouth? Is it increasing the brand amplification? What are the social goals in there? Build the framework. Determine what are we measuring, what goals we're aligning to social, and build the framework of what the measurement looks like, those options that we want to measure, and then check in and see what the results are. Or admit maybe this isn't the way it's going and see what the lack of results are and figure out why. It's easier to figure that out why now than a year down the road and people are questioning, what are we doing in social? What is the actual impact to us? I encourage you to share the findings with your organization. You're gonna find some interesting nuggets in social based on either the content people are sharing or engaging or resonating with them. And there are senior management teams, there are middle management teams, there are entry-level employees that are craving that type of data. Not related to tourism, but I work with a very large camera manufacturer. They invested all this money into this large product. Then when they did social listening, they found that 80% about their conversations was about a $30 camera that was literally an afterthought in their organization. No one in senior management knew that. They had no idea that even though we threw all this money towards this one big launch, they actually cared about this little $30 disposable camera, and that led to that kind of aha moment where people realize we need to align our investment to that. And that happens by sharing the findings in there and knowing what your initial goals are. And then finally, which of the teams in the organization we feel comfortable are going to share the content? Maybe it's not the accounting team, but maybe it's somebody in the marketing or corporate comms teams. How do we give them content on a weekly basis, encourage them to share it, and then actually see what the results of that amplification is? And then finally, the ROI question. One of the biggest things to know about is this term dark social. So everything we just talked about, all that alignment, the website activity, the traffic and all that, then we forget about dark social. This is one of the biggest ways to measure ROI, because anytime that you share content on social and then people email it, they text it to their friends, they share the link, and then when they visit your website and you go to your Google Analytics, none of that is being attributed to social media activity. So the question is, how do we actually find and how do we actually go in and actually put in the proper tracking and identification to be able to actually show all that web activity? You might be generating a huge ROI on social because of people sharing your content, but if it's not being directly attributed to social, it's going to be very hard to prove that. And you're going to have everybody saying, well, our results are up, the website activity is up, but unless it's being attributed to social, nobody's going to believe that. And the way that we encourage you at Hootsuite to do that is look at your individual messages, accounts, users, and networks, and then leverage a web analytics solution like a Google Analytics. But importantly, every time you share a piece of content or a link, put in your UTM parameters. So those are your Google Analytics tracking codes. Those are your different links in there. Use Bitly, use Owly, use a URL shortener so every single social message has your Google Analytics and UTM tracking code. So when people email that link to their friend and it has your tracking code, every time that people text that link to their friend and it has your tracking code, that will be able to enable you to attribute social to all of your web activity needs, so that when all that excitement came in and people are going to your website and filling out the form and going to your destination, you can actually tie that back to social, because otherwise all that activity today is looking like they just came directly to your website, and there's no way to see the messages, the campaigns, the networks, or the type of content actually attributing to it. And then finally, we look at, there are different analytics services right now that allow you to be able to see the cost of clicks per versus your organic and paid, see how much you're spending on that, compare that to your social activity, put that all together, and that'll help you attribute your dark social activity. Thank you. So we've got a couple of minutes for questions, and happy to answer any of them right now.